Hey guys, welcome back to Andy's Dinosaur Reviews, and we have something absolutely epic to take a look at today, as we have a brand new Creature Preacher model to take a look at. This is actually the Plesiosaur from The Land That Time Forgot. If you are familiar with that film, you'll know at the beginning. Basically, when they get to the Land That Time Forgot, they're attacked by a few different marine reptiles, and one of which is some species of plesiosaur, and that is exactly who we are taking a look at today, as Creature Preacher has gone ahead and created a model of that, and it looks so awesome, like absolutely epic, really, really nice, very faithful to what it looks like in the film. I feel like he absolutely nailed the likeness of this, as he always does, and definitely some really nice paintwork on this one. I really am quite a fan of what I'm seeing when it comes to the coloration and paintwork that he's applied to this model, definitely giving it, again, that screen accurate sort of dark and gritty feel. And if you know me, you know I am a huge fan of older dinosaur films and, of course, kaiju films and stuff like that. But, of course, specifically dinosaur films, I'm a giant fan of things like that. And even more specific, the Doug McClure films like, At the Earth's Core, The Land That Time Forgot, The People That Time Forgot, and stuff like that. I love those movies, and I've said that numerous times in the past when it comes to previous Creature Preacher reviews, as he's created a few different dinosaurs from that series of films, and we now have our very first marine reptiles. So, without further ado, let's jump to a closer look at it right now. So starting up here at the head sculpt, if you are familiar with the film and you are familiar with this creature, you'll definitely be able to see a majorly strong likeness between this and the version that we see in the film. I think the overall head sculpt that he has created here, again, is honestly picture perfect to the way it looks in the film. Like, he really nailed the skull shape and that kind of eerie appearance that those plesiosaurs have in the film, which is fantastic. We have a nice painted eye, a nice black coloration with a gloss coat. The gloss coat, you can see there, shining very nicely, very realistically. The teeth are all sculpted individually. You have kind of like, variation of color. You can almost see like reds and stuff there, kind of giving it kind of a bloody sort of a look. And we've got yellows and whites and stuff there for the teeth on the inside of the mouth. And then when it comes to Creature Preacher, he often gives his figures kind of like a slight metallic touch in some areas, almost like a part of his charm, his kind of calling card, and you can see that going on here for the inside of the mouth. You can see the tongue sculpted out in there, and we have kind of like some metallic tones on the inside of the mouth as well. You can see that there on the upper side of the inside of the mouth, also looking really, really cool. And as you move along through the course of the model, you'll start to see all sorts of variation of browns, as we have a nice kind of a darker brown here that we see in the face, but you also have these lighter browns up here on the top of the head. And you can also take notice to the fact that he's applied a really nice dark wash to make sure to highlight that detail perfectly everywhere. You can see even down here on the underside of the throat, again, that dark wash looks great everywhere. And you can also see, again, quite a bit of variation of color as you move through, really, really subtle transitions between different variations of brown, which is something that Creature Preacher is really good at. He always applies a lot of different variation of color to his models. As you begin to move down the course of the neck, you see all kinds of, again, creases and everything in the skin, all of those nice areas for that dark wash to crawl into. We also start to see like some reddish tones picking up here on the back of the neck. You can also kind of make out the spinal column, and we continue to see, again, all of those really nice creases and all of the really nice skin texture as you move down the course of the exceptionally long neck of our plesiosaur, and you can see it's all, again, beautifully highlighted with that dark wash as we continue to move along. And again, I would like to think, and if you're not paying enough attention to it, you can see, again, just differences in color right here between here and here. You can see different shades of browns. Creature Preacher always applies an exceptional amount of paintwork to his models to give them some really nice realistic skin tone. But as we move down here into the body, you can see a little bit of like a height in the spinal column here moving along the back of the animal. You can also see kind of a muscular look to the plesiosaur overall. Definitely some nice structure sculpted out in the model. You can also see more of that kind of reddish tone there moving along the back of our plesiosaur, and of course that dark wash really tying it all together. But it looks exceptionally muscular as you move through, leading down here into the flipper. Again, it continues to have that really muscular, really old school sort of a look. As you lead out into the flipper itself, you have, again, quite a bit of variation of color like you would like to see, again adding nice doses of realism with all the different skin tone and even some more of those slight reddish tints out here on the flipper, and you can again see the creases and everything as you move through. And to my knowledge, we don't really have a full-bodied view of the plesiosaur from the land that time forgot, so some of this is probably created just strictly out of Creature Preacher's own interpretation of the animal. And that's also really cool because, you know, when you don't have reference material, you're going to have to use your own imagination, and this looks honestly like exactly how I would expect it to look if it were completely exposed from the water in the film. As you move along the side, again, you continue to have that creasing sort of appearance to it, the really nice looking skin texture, and now we start to see some variations again of browns here as you move through, different slight differences in tones of color there for the browns. And then you lead back here to the rear flipper, again a bit smaller than we see there for the front flipper, and again the really nice looking paintwork, really nice texturing. And then you lead out here to a really quite small tail, and even the tail itself has that kind of like almost like suit like look, or puppet like look, kind of like the way it appears in the film, you know, exactly as you would expect it to look, honestly, with that kind of rough and rugged sort of gritty look and feel to it, but at the same time almost having that slight puppet-like look to it. And as you move here along the underside, again, the incredible paintwork and incredible detailing doesn't just end up there on the top. You can see that continues here as you move along through the entire underside of the plesiosaur. Now, the animal is in almost a neutral position, so you're not really going to see too much difference over here compared to what we had just seen on the initial side. As you move through, you'll see that the body primarily is in pretty much the same position over here, but definitely looks, again, just as awesome over here as it did on the initial side. Absolutely epic in every sense of the word is this plesiosaur from the land that time forgot. Yet again, a model I never in a billion years would have expected to one day own, but thankfully we have Creature Preacher in our lives to step in and give us really, really nice interpretations of these creatures that we otherwise would not have a chance to actually own. Again, another awesome model from Creature Preacher. Now you might notice that I've had it kind of sitting here with one of the pegs from PNSO that usually help to hold the models up and stuff, but that's not because this doesn't stand, or, well, I mean, it doesn't really stand because it's a plesiosaur. It doesn't have legs to stand, it's got flippers, but that doesn't mean that it can't balance itself out. But it doesn't balance in this position. It actually balances like this, and it stands really nicely, or balances really nicely, because again, they can't stand. But the plesiosaur in the film, you can see it stands tall for sure, but the plesiosaur in the film is kind of like coming up out of the water like this and attacking the members of the submarine, and that's kind of the way that he has sculpted this out. And it honestly is like super well balanced for this position. Like, it is really, really nicely done. So that's why you don't see me leaving it laid down like this, because if you lay it down like this, it's a little bit top heavy, so it kind of leans forward. So I've been using this stand because it's a lot more convenient to have it in screen like this, and it's a bit more of a natural swimming position when I have it like this. But as far as the actual display goes, you know, positioning it upright is, I think, the correct way to do it, but it's also a really easy way to display this without it taking up a massive amount of room, because it is a pretty good sized model. And to show you that, for a length from the tail to the snout, you're looking at about 14 inches or around 35.5 centimeters. And that is pretty long. Of course, that would pretty much be the height too if we, you know, stood it back up. But if we go for a height to the back of the neck in this position, it's about 4.5 inches or around 11.5 centimeters. But of course, again, the correct way to probably display it would be to stand it up tall. And for a size comparison, I don't know if we should leave it like this or stand it up tall. We'll do both, and we'll just take a look at a comparison here with the Papo T-Rex, the Attack Pack Colovosaurus, and Robert Muldoon from the Mattel Jurassic World toy line next to our Land That Time Forgot Plesiosaur. And you can definitely see again that it's a pretty big model, like definitely a lot larger than everything else that we have here next to it. And then if we actually stand it up again in that kind of upright position, and we move the stand and we put everything a little bit closer, and then we kind of lean back a little bit here, you can really see again how large that is. It is definitely quite a bit bigger than everything we have here, definitely towers over all of these other models. And to further show you how huge this is, if you are a Creature Preacher collector, here is his Crater Lake monster next to the Land That Time Forgot Plesiosaur. Two very different style plesiosaurs here, but you can see again that the Land That Time Forgot version is significantly larger than his older Crater Lake monster. Still really cool to have two different plesiosaurs released from Creature Preacher. And then for a really fun comparison, we have the Land That Time Forgot Ceratosaurus from Creature Preacher next to the Land That Time Forgot Plesiosaur, also from Creature Preacher. And it's really neat to see these two together. It's also just cool in general to see that we have numerous creatures from this film created by Creature Preacher. And I really hope that it doesn't end here. I love to see this stuff, and I really hope that Creature Preacher continues to create more of these moving into the future, because I would love to see even more of the creatures from these films created, and maybe at some point he can dive into At the Earth's Core and maybe even Warlords of Atlantis at some point. I would just love to see more and more models of these creatures and these dinosaurs and prehistoric, marine reptiles and stuff from Creature Preacher as time goes on. Definitely loving this line of awesome models. So this brand new Creature Preacher Land That Time Forgot Plesiosaur is another insanely cool release from him. Definitely another one of my favorites. It might actually be the largest model as well that he has released so far that I have in my collection. Like, lengthwise, I would say there's a good chance. I don't know if the Last Dinosaur is a little bit longer because of its super long tail, but I think as far as the overall body goes, this is probably the largest model that I have, unless I'm completely forgetting about something. But he has done a great job, again, of bringing this very obscure movie monster prehistoric marine reptile to life with his model, and on top of that, he's done a great job of sculpting it out to give it that really nice screen accuracy that we would want to see. It absolutely looks like the plesiosaur looks in the film, and again, like I said earlier, you don't see a whole lot of it in the movie, so it's kind of hard to get reference material for that creature. And I think Creature Preacher has done a great job of kind of bringing this to life in a way where it looks exactly as I would expect it to look, but without having the actual visual proof to show that. Like, he really did sculpt this out again in a way where it honestly looks exactly as I would have thought it would look if they had just killed it and brought it fully out of the water. They do kill one of them, I think, but they don't completely expose it from the water. You never really have a chance to see the full body of the creature, and you would never know that just looking here at Creature Preacher's model, because it really looks like this is probably how it would have looked in the film. Again, the actual fine detail is fantastic through the entire model. Really nice looking skin texture, and his paintwork is just as fantastic, as he's applied so many varying tones of color, as he always does, to give it a really nice realistic and lifelike appearance, and also, of course, a nice dark wash to tie it all together. And he's given nice elements of realism, like a glossy look on the inside of the mouth, gloss coat for the eyes, and an overall gorgeous appearance. So if you are interested in picking one of these up, as always, I will include a link in the description to where you can do that on the Creature Preacher Etsy shop. I will also include links to Creature Preacher's social media outlets where you can stay up to date on everything that he is working on, so that you can grab his models as soon as they are released, and you can get your pre-orders in and everything as he's putting them up. Definitely something that's pretty important if you want to get a hold of his models, but he does have usually a pretty large selection at all times available on his Etsy shop, so definitely pick some of those up. Also, if you are interested, and if you go to conventions and stuff, there are actually some chances you can meet Creature Preacher and speak to him about these models, because he is going to be at the Vermont Sci-Fi and Fantasy Convention in late April, as well as the All Monsters Attack Convention in early May. So if you have intentions of going to either of those, definitely something to remember is that Creature Preacher will be there, so you can go ahead and search him out and maybe acquire some of his models there, and also, again, just generally speak to him about all of the amazing stuff that he creates. So make sure you check him out, make sure you purchase some of these models, and make sure you like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next review. Thanks for watching.